Cali X Boxing, excuse me, 2.0, and I'm rolling solo today. Back old school, and I appreciate everybody who's been subbing. Been getting a bunch of new subs. Appreciate the people who signed up for the mailing list yesterday. That mailing list is live, hcpboxingtribe@gmail.com. So make sure you're sending your emails there. Got a question from somebody on there that I'll be addressing today. So any questions you have, you can send over there. If you want to join the mailing list, like I said, all you got to do, send an email, and in the subject, put mailing list, and we'll start sending out mass emails on Sunday with the show schedule for next week, and also the newsletters will be beginning on Monday. So appreciate the people who have already signed up for that. Dimitri OG, what up, Cali X? Keep up the great content. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. And make sure y'all are hitting that like button as you come in, and make sure to vote on that poll. I put the poll up. Will you be watching Clarissa Shields fight? Are you going to watch that? 71% so far say no, 29% say yes. And we're just doing that for experimental purposes. I want to see how many people are interested in that. And I'll have some thoughts on that today on the show. Clarissa Shields, what I think of her as a fighter and what I think of her, just the constant victimology, the constant, oh, woe is me. Oh my God, woe is me. Why is everybody so disrespectful to me? Why can't I get the credit that I deserve? Nauseating. What's up, my guy, Wheelchair Man John? Appreciate you rolling through. And like I said, make sure you're hitting that like button as you do come through. When we have a week like this, when it's a slow boxing week, what you're going to have a lot of is content creators and journalists who do this full time, who start reaching, like really reaching, because they depend on this for their income. They depend on this for their livelihood. And all due respect to them, man, I appreciate a lot of the stuff that they put out. I appreciate their dedication to the sport, and I hope everybody is successful in putting food on the table for their family. However, where boxing differs from other sports is, I have a good friend who follows NBA, covers the NBA. Shout out to basketballnews.com. Huge website, over 1 million Instagram followers, etc. And they don't have to reach. And the reason they don't have to reach is they have constant organic news coming in. They have an 82-game season. Before that, they've got preseason. They've got playoffs. After the playoffs, they go straight to the draft. Then they go to summer league, and then they go to free agency. And then during the season, they have trade deadlines. So they have constant news to talk about, and they don't have to reach. Same with football, same with baseball. The issue with boxing is it gets into these lulls. Even in what we call right now, they're calling this a lot of fights are being made, right? This is a heavy schedule. And even in heavy schedule, you have lulls. It's a weekend sport. You have lulls in between. You have slow weeks. And on a week like this, you're going to get a lot of clickbait. And what I would suggest to people is to stay away from the clickbait. Because what happens out there is they put the clickbait out, hoping that this side goes after that side. And that starts to happen, and dudes start to eat each other alive on here over nothing. That's why I call this false flags, the Canelo versus Benavidez false flag that's being perpetrated out there right now. I saw this news clip earlier, and this is Michael Benson. David Benavidez's representatives are reportedly prepared to offer Canelo Alvarez a deal including close to $50 million guaranteed for the undisputed WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO super middleweight world title fight in September, according to Chris Mannix. So when you see this, what are some things that you pick up on? I saw these spats on Twitter yesterday. Is Sampson saying, we offered a deal. We already sent you a deal. We already emailed you a deal. Reynoso saying, we never got a deal. And the false flags start, right? And, once again, I would urge you I would urge you to rely heavily on track record. Rely heavily on track record. Rely heavily on track record. During slow spurts in boxing, this is when false narratives, false flags pick up. People jump headfirst into them. They gain traction. And then we got to start pushing back on them. And it gets constant. It gets nauseating because, as D-Style says, it's exhausting having to unpack things for people all of the time. The crayon eaters in the back of the class. It's like, dude, can you not just see through this? Can you not see through this for once? Can you not just read the scoreboard for once and say, I got that wrong, I got that wrong, I got that wrong, I got that wrong, I got that wrong. Maybe, just maybe, I'm getting this one wrong in my quest against a certain fighter. Whoever that fighter may be, who you just decided that you're going to hate all of a sudden for whatever reason, and there's nothing that this fighter is going to do that is going to be good enough for you. It's what I say about Lomachenko right now. I see these dudes, like a 35-year-old dude who was a 3-1 underdog, who 80% of the boxing public felt won the fight, and he still didn't gain your respect. He still didn't gain your respect. He's still not a great fighter to you. He's still not a Hall of Famer to you because he's 17-3 in the O era. What does he need to do? What does he need to do? And the goalposts will constantly move. They'll constantly move to these miserable boxing fans who just can't follow the sport and see where it leads them. So when I read something like this, when I read this right here, the first thing that I see just off the bat is prepared to offer Canelo Alvarez a deal. Prepared to. I thought the deal was already set. I could have swore like people kept sending me a screenshot of a subject of an email. I could have swore I saw that. Like they're sending me, they keep sending me this. I got people even texting me. Here's an email that Benavidez's manager sent 2 days ago. The deal's already sent, and it's the most lucrative offer of all time. It's the greatest offer of all time. And there's no way Canelo can deny this, and there's no way Canelo can turn down this deal, because if he does, he's a duck. He's a duck. And the false flags continue to go, and this is what happens in a slow week in particular. False flag, false flag, false flag, false flag. Fake news, fake news, fake news, fake. They're reaching. They're reaching. What I'm telling you is, don't take the bait. Just follow track record. Follow your instincts, guided by knowledge. See where it takes you. There's one guy in this scenario who has fought one meaningful fight in a decade. And that one meaningful fight, his manager has already admitted, openly bragged about marinating for 5 years. 5 years. And in that marination, what did they get out of it on the other end? Maybe 100,000 pay-per-view buys. Maybe. That's the track record on one side. The other side is wheeling and dealing. Generous A side. If a fight's there to be made, he's going to give it to you. He's going to meet the demand. He's going to supply it. Track record. Track record. One has a track record of delivering. The other does not. So what I'm going to do, and what I suggest you do, is don't constantly follow this news cycle. I got people texting me about it. I got people emailing me about it. No, don't follow the news cycle. Trust your instincts. What's going to happen here is what I told you is going to happen here. If a fight is in demand, Canelo has the track record of delivering it to you within 12, at the latest 18 months. If he doesn't give you the fight that's number one on your list in September, be looking out for February, May at the latest. But when I see this right here, man, it just prepared to. So now I'm getting the mixed signals. Prepared to or already sent. Which one is it? David Benavidez's team is prepared. How could they be prepared to send an offer that they've already sent 2 days ago? I have questions. I'm super confused over here. Are they prepared to send the offer, or did they send the offer? I don't know. I've been told they already sent the most lucrative offer of all time, close to 50 million. Isn't Canelo already making 50 million per fight? And this is the biggest fight of all time. Why not 50? I don't know. Let me put on my Fanager hat all of a sudden. Why not 50? Why not over 50? It's exhausting, man. It's exhausting. Are they prepared to send the offer? Did they send the offer already? I'm confused. Somebody answer. Because I got a screenshot. I got it texted to me. I got it emailed to me. I got it tweeted to me. I have a screenshot of Samson already sending the most lucrative offer of all time, but now they're prepared to send it? Hello? What is this? See where it takes you. Don't follow the constant news cycle, particularly in slow weeks when dudes are reaching out here. I have the benefit of not having to reach because I don't depend on it for monetary gain. We can just follow the sport as it goes and see where it takes you. And trust your track record, trust your instincts guided by intelligence. Trust it. Lean on it. Are you going to trust a dude who openly bragged about marinating a fight for half a decade that did 100,000 pay-per-view buys? Are you going to take his word for it based off of a screenshot of an email? And it's not even the email. It's like the subject letter of the email. Come on, man. Wake up. I want to shake these dudes sometimes. Wake up. Hello. McFly, wake up. Dude, his track record is the only meaningful fight his fighter has in a 9+ year career, almost a decade. He marinated for 5 years and it did 100,000 pay-per-view buys. And he has a style that I've been told by the same people for years that Canelo only wants to fight that style. I'm confused. I'm sitting over here confused. None of this makes any sense. None of it makes any sense. False flags. They're reaching. Just trust your instincts. Let's see where this takes us. If Canelo fights Bivol, he fights Bivol. We'd rather see the Benavidez fight. As Canelo fans, we'd rather see the Benavidez fight because stylistically, it's a more entertaining fight, but it's a more winnable fight by far. Somebody asked me this, like, who do you see as the most unbeatable fighters in the sport, stylistically? Who do you think would give everybody the most problems in and around their weight class? Shakur, Bivol, in a way. Those are like the three to me. Around 175, Bivol is just a hard style for everybody. Shakur, the same thing at 135. In a way, the same thing, and it's going to translate to 122. I'm telling you, he's going to run through Stephen Fulton Jr. The more I think about that fight, he's going to run through Stephen Fulton Jr. He's not going to have the power to keep that guy off of him. I'm telling you. That quickness is going to translate as he goes up in weight class. Samson having a wet dream. Shout out to Matador HLD. This BS topic got Calix on the 80-ounce shot espresso mug. Wake up. And this is the H2O. Having to hydrate for this one. Why is Valdez getting the respect now after losing to Shakira and saying she is special? I don't know. Shout out to Chicano Prophet. Ligovich doesn't have all that money. HLD. And by the way, how is it that the PBC is finding all this guaranteed money for Canelo and not anybody else? If I'm hearing that Canelo's not the face of boxing. How is, I don't get it. How is it? I'm being a fanager here. Like I'm trying to illustrate absurdity with absurdity. How is it that Canelo is being offered prepared to being offered close to 50 million in guaranteed money? He's already been offered that for the Caleb Plant fight. And I'm being told he's not the face of boxing or whatever. And the other faces of boxing under the PBC umbrella are not being offered anywhere close to this. Once again, I'm sitting over here confused. I'm very confused. Errol Spence is the mayor of Fort Worth County. He sells out Jerry's World, right? Although he doesn't, but I've been told he does. How is he not being guaranteed 50 million? How is Tank not being guaranteed 50 million per fight? I'm confused. Really, it's another thing I'm confused about when I see that press clipping. Shout out HLD. But the problem is, Calix, some people I have no common sense. Yeah, I mean, it's the crayon eaters in the back of the class. The powers that be need to be overthrown. Canelo and Eddie Hearns and DAZN will make the offers, I would assume. Boxing needs a national commission like every other sport. Make the fans the matchmakers because the consumer drives the sport. Yeah, what it comes down to with boxing when we start to have the discussion, because I see what's going on with Teddy Atlas out there politicking for a national commission, is, would you rather decentralized corruption or centralized corruption? Centralized corruption can be a lot more dangerous because it's centralized. It's more powerful. Decentralized corruption can tend to offset each other. So I don't know, man. I don't think there's any solutions to these questions. It all comes down to trade-offs. What's your trade-off? Meanwhile, he's apparently got a 3-fight deal. It's another confusing thing. Batman Boxing. Does he have a 3-fight deal or does he not? I'm really confused. Does he have a 3-fight deal or does he not? So we're going to see where this thing plays out. Canelo fights Bivol. Canelo fights Benavidez. Whatever happens, I'll be there. I'll either be at the fight or I'll order the pay-per-view like I always do. I'll support the fighter who gives me the fights. It's like I talked about yesterday with Teofimo and Josh Taylor. And by the way, y'all make sure y'all are hitting that like button and vote on the poll. Let me see where that poll's at right now. 63% say they're not watching Clarissa Shields fight. 37% say yay, they are. So, you know, most people are not. We'll get to that in a minute. But in a week like this, you're going to get the clickbait. And in a week like this, the troubling part, as I go back to with the news cycle in boxing, and Roberto Diaz told me in D-Style this when we interviewed him. It's like, I'll do an interview with somebody, and then I'll watch the interview on YouTube, and the title is a quote from me that I never even said. I never even said it. And they'll make something out of it that it wasn't even meant to be. They'll take it out of context. They'll just completely misquote me. That's where we're at with the boxing media. And the reason we're there is they're constantly reaching for clicks. And in a week like this, in particular, when it's slow, you're not going to have people on here like, I'll just use myself as an example, who just reels it back a little bit. You're not going to have people like, yesterday I did a video about Susumi and his fight yesterday. Now, most people don't even know who the dude is. He's a featherweight. It was his third pro fight. He fought a 12-rounder out in Japan. Most people didn't know it even happened. But they're going to be too busy reaching for content instead of dropping a video about him like I did on my channel, because I don't need that financially. I don't. It's just about putting out consistent content. But when it comes to boxing content creators, they have to reach on a slow week in particular. So on a week like this, and this is the troubling part about the sport that wasn't this way 30 years ago. And I would argue that a lot of fighters, you didn't know as much what was going on with them outside the ring due to social media not being there. And at the same time, people didn't care. You had seriously flawed fighters for generations, and nobody cared what was going on with them outside the ring. And if they knew about it, they still didn't care as long as they were delivering the fights and delivering entertainment inside the ring. Didn't care. The issue now is these fighters fight less often. They're fighting once per year, maybe twice per year if you're lucky. You're hearing more about what they're doing outside the ring than inside the ring. And on a week like this, you'll have quotes from Teofimo Lopez saying he wants to kill somebody in the ring. He wants to kill Josh Taylor on top of all the other stuff he says. And you say that, you see that, and you're like, yeah, this guy's hard to cheer for. It's hard to cheer for. But where I would redirect people is this. We're boxing fans at the end of the day. And I don't care about as much about what these guys are doing outside the ring. So when Teofimo Lopez says something like that, I just say, yeah, it's tongue in cheek, or he's trying to sell a fight, whatever. Let's see what happens in the fight. Because the thing that I value most about Teofimo Lopez, we could talk about his flaws. We can talk about he's possibly a shooting star type fighter. That's what I'm starting to see with Teofimo Lopez, is a guy who came, and as soon as he came up, he went. That's a great possibility with Teofimo Lopez, but we leave open the door that he can beat Josh Taylor. Why? Because 3 years, like, we can't erase that. We can't unsee that. This dude beat Lomachenko and beat him clearly. Clearly. To me, it's one of the best wins of the past decade, in the fact that they did it in an empty ballroom. They delivered the fight when they had every excuse not to deliver the fight. He fought the fight. And he beat Lomachenko. We can talk about the shoulder, all that stuff. I get it. But he beat Lomachenko at his own game. That was the impressive part about that. And he beat him clearly. To me, it's one of the best wins of the past decade. We can't unsee that. And he fought the fight, is my point. He fought Comey before that, knocked him out. Vicious knockout. Nakatani, he's got wins. And he has a clear track record now of fighting the fights. He's fighting Josh Taylor. I had people telling me left and right, he's not going to fight Josh Taylor. He's not going to fight any meaningful fights at 140. He's just not going to do it. Where are we now? He's doing it. As a boxing fan, I forgive all that other stuff because he's in the ring fighting the fights. Josh Taylor, same thing. He had one of the most impressive undisputed runs of the four-belt era. Pulling off upsets, beating Regis Prograis, beating Jose Ramirez in impressive fashion. You know, whatever we think about Jack Catterall in that performance, I felt he lost the fight, but Jack Catterall is a top 3 guy in the division. And on top of that, he's bouncing back and fighting Teofimo Lopez. Now, I'd rather these guys had the momentum, grab these great victories, and run with the momentum, but they're trying to get that back. They're trying to get that back. They're both guys who hopped into the top 10 pound for pound after big wins. They're not in my top 10 pound for pound anymore. But one thing I can appreciate about both fighters is you can say they say dumb stuff outside the ring, particularly Teofimo. You can say there's some foolishness that comes along with them. You can say they didn't grab the momentum. But one thing we can say about both these guys is they have a track record of fighting the fights. They have a track record of being fighters, behaving like fighters. And that's what I value about both of these fighters in the fight that they're giving us next weekend. So once again, I would tell you to guard yourself against this week is stop paying attention so much about what these guys are doing outside the ring. And you're going to hear more about it on weeks like this as they try to get their clicks. They try to generate their clicks. They put the flashy title, all that stuff. Don't pay attention to that as much. Just wait for the fights. See where the fights take us. Value the fights. Clickbait is everywhere. It is. It's everywhere. Everywhere. Sad. It's kind of a super fight, with the exception, not the rule these days. Taylor too skillful for Teo. He might even stop him. And I'm going to be talking about that fight almost every day next week. It's one of those type of fights for me. I'm really intrigued by it. And I feel strongly that Taylor's going to win that fight against Teofimo. Teofimo is going to show flashes, but Taylor's going to be the more consistent fighter in that fight. think people are reading too much into that Catterall performance. Catterall is a tough stuff. He's just one of those guys you don't swerve into fighting him because his style, you're not going to look good against him. He's got a dreadful style to fight. Teo is all over the place, and barring his early highlight reel type finishes against nobody impressive, he's going to take a beating. He's been all over the place mentally ever since he beat Loma. And it's clear, one thing we can read off of this stuff outside the ring is it's bleeding in to his performances inside the ring. And the reason I say that is you can't unsee the Lomachenko performance. So when I see him do that and then do what he did against Kambosos, and then the last two fights, you know, he has his moments, but he doesn't really get it going. I say to myself, what's going on here? But the wild card to this is he could be one of those inconsistent fighters who fights up to competition and down to competition. Kambosos, he might not have been able to get it up for him, right? Martin, same thing. But Josh Taylor, he might be able to get it up for that fight. Pause. And he might put on a great performance. I don't, you know, he's hard to read, man. I've got Taylor. I think that's great value. I think so too. Why do these guys get to the top of the mountain and decide to get someone pregnant, married, and divorced all in the same year or two? Stick to the plan. Your life in the ring is short. And I talked about this on Twitter, and this will just be a quick pit stop to outside of boxing. And this is the advice I give my nephews and my younger cousin is the greatest investment you'll make in your life is who you decide to marry. Or who do you, if people don't believe in marriage, that's fine. Who you decide to spend your life with. It's the greatest investment you'll ever make. It's the most important investment you'll ever make. So what we need to be teaching these young dudes coming up is make sure you vet the person you fall in love with and decide to spend the rest of your life with, because emotionally, spiritually, financially, it matters. It's the greatest investment you'll ever make. Become a high value man, attract a high value woman, get married, have kids, stay married. Or if you don't get married, that's fine. Just stay with that person. If that you want to have kids, stay with them if you have kids. But this stuff right here, it would destroy you. Destroy you. The stuff that he's going through at what, 24 years old, 20, however old he is, it destroys you. It destroys you mentally, spiritually, and it leaks into everything. It leaks into your performances in the ring. I'm telling you what he's going through mentally. But for me, I'll just circle back to it. The valuable thing about Teofimo Lopez to me is I don't care win or lose. I don't care about any. He's delivering fights for me. Josh Taylor's delivering fights for me. So I value them as fighters that way. The odds are close to that Taylor versus Lopez fight, Calix. Looking forward to seeing you take a look at the odds down the line. Yeah, and last I saw, I looked at him this morning. Actually, Josh Taylor's minus 155. And by the way, Crawford's minus 135. So he's a betting favorite against Errol Spence. And I'm still hopping on minus 135. I mean, I can't believe Bud's not at least a 2-1 favorite. By the way, the news out there that's already sold out. Pre-sale tickets. It's going to be a big fight, man. I don't know what it does pay-per-view wise, and I wish it would have been 5 years ago, all that stuff, but it's still a big fight. And I just continue to stick with how I feel about that fight. I just feel strongly that Bud Crawford is going to put on a great performance, a career best performance, and I think he's just a better fighter than Errol Spence in pretty much every way. And I'm surprised he's not a 2-1 favorite. I'm jumping all over those odds. Obviously, he won't know, but 3 million pay-per-view buys. Please don't fight Conor McGregor. Please don't fight Conor McGregor. What about the quote, man? She's B-siding to a band just to sell tickets. Still can't do it. Shout out No Paul. And I saw that too. I think the Four Tops are there singing the national anthem. And they're on the poster. This is what I'll say about Clarissa Shields. I'll take a stab at this real quick. And this is why I asked the poll, will you be watching Clarissa Shields? 68% say no, 32% say yes, 38 votes. And by the way, make sure y'all are hitting that like button. And by the way, make sure y'all are signing up for that email that I put down there. You want on the mailing list, full schedule to the shows every week and daily newsletters starting next week. It's hcpboxingtribe@gmail.com. Simply send me an email. It could be a blank email. You can say, hey, you looked ugly on the show today. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to put, just put mailing list in the subject letter. Put whatever. And then I got a question that somebody asked me on the email. You can ask me questions on there, whatever. Give suggestions, whatever you want to do. Clarissa Shields, to me, let me pull up her box rec real quick and tell you what I think. This is Clarissa Shields' box rec. And D-Style put on the show yesterday her division. Her division has 31 fighters. And half of them have losing records. And there's only I don't mean 31 fighters in the state of Michigan. I mean 31 fighters universally are in her weight class. So this is one of the things left in female boxing that needs to be done is the numbers need to get there. And they will over time. The next generation, you'll naturally have more female fighters. We had Jenny Fuchs on the show yesterday who picked up boxing. She's fighting on the Regis Pro Grey undercard. And female boxing has gotten to, there's rivalries now. And we needed rivalries. And what we need more of, and you see it here in Clarissa Shields' box rec. What do we see? What's the constant here? Put in the chat. What's the constant? What is the constant thing on Clarissa Shields' resume? I mean, real quick, people take a stab at it in the chat. What is the constant here? What's the constant? It's 2 letters. 2 letters is the constant. I mean, since nobody's putting it, UD, 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 UD. Oh, there it is. TKO, UD, TKO. Good, great. TKO, UD. And those are just TKOs. Those aren't even KOs. One thing that really irks me, man, and it's not just boxing, this is life, is healthy people complaining about stuff. God, there's nothing that bothers me more than that. One of the businesses that me and my wife do is we see a lot of heartache in this business. We see a lot of and it's hard to even talk about. Just think about it. You see a lot of children with terminal illness, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7, 8 years old, dying on the bed, dying. And you see their parents walking around and you converse with their parents and their parents are just zombies. Zombies. The worst thing you could possibly go through is seeing your child like that, your child in pain, your child dying. Worst thing ever. So when you're constantly exposed to that, you have a new perspective on life. It's like, what do I have to complain about? I got 2 arms, I got 2 legs, I can walk out, I could do stuff. I'm healthy. These kids haven't given a chance at life. Nothing. 3 years old, 4 years old, bald, chemo, living in a hospital, in and out of the hospital, at the hospital more than they're at their house, can't even go to school. Nothing. No childhood. And their parents are just sitting there. That's the worst part, is their parents are just sitting there having to go through that constantly. Medical bills piling up. And then I come back to that and I go on Twitter and I scroll on Twitter and I see a fighter complaining about stuff. Why don't you call me the GOAT? Why don't you show me proper respect, the GOAT? I am the GWOAT. Why don't you show me the proper respect? Why don't you call me the GOAT? Why don't you knock somebody out? How about that? How about that? How about you stop complaining for once? Just pick a day. Pick a day of the week. Pick Wednesday. Wednesday, I'm not going to complain. Wednesday, I'm not going to bitch and moan about how people don't show me the proper respect. Just pick one day. Pick one day a week. You're not going to act like a victim. I can't stand healthy people who act like a victim, act like the world's out to get them. The world is not out to get you. The boxing world did not wake up one day and say, Clarissa Shields, we're going to attack her. We're going to go after her. Clarissa Shields sucks. Nobody's saying you suck. What we are saying is you're about as interesting as watching the grass grow. You're about as interesting as watching paint dry. So if you want a fan base, if you want people to be interested in you, how about you take some chances and knock some people out? I don't. It's a crazy idea. People like to see knockouts, right? I don't care what the people are delivering, what they look like delivering knockouts. They're delivering knockouts. We love it. We love it. It's the reason Tank, we say what we want to say about Tank and the lack of resume, all this stuff. But one thing this dude does, he knocks people out. I wish he'd knock out more talented fighters. I wish. But one thing I got to give him is he knocks people out. He knows how to entertain. And he's going to put himself at risk to do it. The most valuable thing to me about Bud Crawford is not that he's an undefeated fighter. It's not that he's a great pound for pound fighter. He puts himself at risk to knock people out. He'll give up some of his attributes to knock people out. And by the way, I'm not getting any comments right now. That's what I'm looking at. For some reason, the comments froze up. But hopefully they pop back up during the show and I can see them. I don't know why the comments are coming through for me. But the one thing I value about Bud Crawford is he'll put himself at risk knowing he's one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world, probably pound for pound, the most talented fighter in the world, etc. But he's going to put himself at risk to get the knockout. He's got 100% KO percentage at welterweight. It's carried up with him. He will give up some of his assets, some of his advantages in order to go for the knockout. So this is what I'm asking of Clarissa Shields. Look, I appreciate she went to MMA to try to get some buzz, but in the boxing world, if you want to garner some attention, we can't see UD when you're facing opposition besides Savannah Marshall, opposition that is much inferior to you. And we know you're a 40-1 favorite on Saturday. 40-1. You're a 40-1 favorite. If I see UD against a 40-1 favorite, my head's going to explode. I swear to God, my head's going to explode. Because I know what's going to happen. She's going to be holding the belts. Well, y'all respect me. I'm the GOAT. I'm the GWOAT. Respect me. Bow down before me. I am the greatest female fighter of all time. You fought a 40-1 underdog and you didn't knock her out. Give me some knockouts. Take some chances. I don't want to hear that's not my style. Let's not make it your style. You want more attention, right? You're constantly playing the victim. Oh, woe is me. Oh, woe is me. Clarissa Shields. I'm the GOAT. I'm the GOAT. I'm the GOAT. I'm the GOAT. And I'm trying to read some of these comments. I got a bunch of comments on my phone, but I'm getting none up here on the actual show. So unfortunately, I can't get to the comments. So hopefully that updates at some point. Not sure where StreamYard's tripping right now. I see Chauncey Pearls has a 199 super chat. Appreciate you, Chauncey, and look forward to chatting with you tonight. And that's why Spence KO's Bud. Chauncey, you are gonna be Chauncey, you are gonna be so disappointed. So disappointed in that fight, in that result. Because you are going to find out, Chauncey, on July 29th, you are going to find out why Al Heyman, for years, for half a decade, has been keeping his whole roster away from Bud Crawford. Because Bud Crawford would have ran through, it would have been a one-man train. He would have ran through that whole PBC roster like it didn't even exist. Like it didn't even exist. Chauncey, we know who a fighter is, what he is by two things. How are his handlers handling him, and how do his peers in and around his weight class think of him? Errol's peers have fought him willingly. They wanted that fight. Errol's power brokers have held him away from one fighter for a half a decade. Who is that fighter? Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford, his peers wanted nothing to do with him. His peers were like, wait, we're on this side of the street. You stay on that side of the street. It's easy to cross promote, man. It's easy. It's Al can fund this side. Somebody else can fund that side. By the way, I hear that's what's happening for this fight while we're getting it. I hear Irish drug money is funding Bud Crawford's side. That's here nor there. The fight's happening. But I know that side wanted nothing to do with the Omaha Boogeyman. Nothing. I know Bud Crawford's power brokers, his promoters, managers are willing to put him in there with anybody. Whatever. But he can't get the fights because of what the other side of the street is doing. Coffee and boxing. Rumor is DAZN doesn't want to pay Bivol Canelo. And that's something I heard from Nando yesterday too, is the demand for the Canelo Bivol fight may not be there for the DAZN to want to invest the type of money that you have to invest in the Canelo fight for that fight. Could be it. I don't know. That's just what I'm hearing. I'm just on the outside like everybody else. But for me, that's good news if that's the case. Because like I said, I don't care where the fight ends up. They can do it at Showtime. They can do it at DAZN, wherever, Telemundo, wherever. They can put the fight in Antarctica. I don't care. Just if they make Canelo versus Benavidez, I think that's the best scenario for everybody involved. Obviously, the fans want that fight more than it. That's like the number one fight, right? It's the top fight that people are asking for. And like I said, the good news about that is Canelo sees the demand. He hears the demand. He's like, yeah, whatever. I'll fight it. When we had Roberto Diaz on a couple weeks ago, I'll bring it up again. He said, I didn't want the Lara fight for Canelo. I didn't want it. I asked him specifically because he said there were certain fights I did not want for Canelo. And I said, specifically, name one. Lara. I didn't want him to fight Lara. Guess what? Canelo fought Lara. Roberto Diaz had a conversation with Canelo in 2012. He documented it with us. What did he say? He said Canelo was told by Mayweather, you're going to fight on my undercard. Fight Austin Trout in the undercard. We'll give you a certain amount of money. And Canelo wanted assurances. He said, if I'm going to fight on your undercard, on your pay-per-view, I need you to guarantee me, assure me that we're going to fight next. Mayweather said, no, we'll handle that later. Canelo said, go F yourself. Go fuck yourself. No, we're not doing that. I'm going to go fight Austin Trout on my own. Main event. They did that fight on 6 weeks' notice. He goes to the Alamo Dome, sells out the Alamo Dome, and fights Austin Trout for half the money. And Roberto Diaz is trying to talk to Canelo and said, you don't have to fight Austin Trout for that type of money. You're gonna make half of the money if you don't fight on the pay-per-view. So you might as well go fight somebody else, not Austin Trout. He's a tough fight. Canelo said, no, we're doing the fight. Make the fight. We're doing Austin Trout for half the money. Go make the fight. He said, we don't matchmake Canelo. That's not what happens there. We don't matchmake. Canelo tells us the fights we want. We go make them. It's not rocket science, fellas, why Canelo started off with a strictly Mexican fan base. Chavez Jr. started off with a strictly Mexican fan base. What do we talk about? When you build an organic base, only you can separate yourself from the base. The media didn't build you, so the media can't tear you down. The media cannot get in the middle of you and your fan base. I'm trying to catch up with comments, man. I can't get my comments up here. So what happens? Chavez Jr. over time loses his fan base that he inherited. He had a nice built-in fan base, great name, obviously. And what happens? Over time, he loses them because he stops behaving like the fighter that his fight fans thought they fell in love with, right? So he loses them over time. What did Canelo do? Canelo just simply makes the fights. Fights Baldomir, people start, get some buzz. Matthew Hatton, start to get some buzz. And then Trout, Mayweather, Lara. He starts giving you the fights. And he's giving you the fights that they say he won't fight. I remember, I'm old enough to remember. I was told he wasn't going to fight Austin Trout. He fought him. I was told he wasn't going to fight Mayweather because it's too early. He fought him. I was told he would never fight Erislandy Lara. Never. And that's what Roberto Diaz was telling us. He's like, I didn't want that fight for him. But he told us to go make the fight. He's there, go make the fight. And he fought the fight. It's not rocket science. So what Canelo does is he starts to build a universal base. Not only is he keeping his Mexican base, he's building an American base. You got UK dudes starting to follow him. This dude can sell out any arena in the world. Don't doubt me on that. Japan, he could go anywhere and sell out. It's not hard to figure out. And they can call us fanboys all they want. I'm consistent in this. You give me the fights, man. I'm a fan. And I trust the track record. So I'll just go back to this. When you start to see these rumors floating around, all these false flags floating around, Benavidez sent this offer, the email. I'm old enough to remember this as well. I was told that Andre Ward sent Gennady Golovkin a deal. Yeah, okay. That's been debunked a million times, but the false narrative still goes on out there that Golovkin ducked Andre Ward. But in reality, what happened? They send an email the day after Golovkin sells out MSG for Lemieux, his first pay-per-view fight. A day after they already sold out MSG. They send an email saying they want to fight. When Andre Ward has already said, I'm moving up to 175 and I'm going to fight 3 tune-ups. I need 3 tune-ups before the Kovalev fight. I'm moving up to 175. But yet these narratives take hold. They grow legs and they grow legs and they grow legs. And they run everywhere, spread like wildfire. And that's why you have to worry about weeks like this when people just start creating narratives out of thin air. I saw another one today. If Regis Prograis moves up to 140, if Devin Haney moves up to 140 to fight Regis Prograis, he's ducking Tank or whatever. I'm just looking at this. I'm like, once again, track record. And once again, can we stop using using the word duck so loosely? Please. I'm begging of you. Please stop using the word duck so loosely. What specifically is a duck? It's when you fight easier opposition at the expense of the tougher opposition. Particularly if business-wise, it's close. So how is it that you move up a weight class? It's so similar to the Bivol thing. You move up a weight class to fight arguably the toughest guy in that weight class, and that's ducking somebody else, especially when you're growing. We know you're growing out of the division. I ask this of the Canelo haters all the time. And the Canelo haters, man, are so exhausting because they drop more Canelo content than Canelo superfans. I documented this in the video. In the 7 months between the Canelo's last fight and Canelo's fight against Ryder, I dropped 1 Canelo video. I dropped 8 other Canelo videos, but those were on fight week. In between Canelo fights, the only time we're talking about Canelo is to push back on narratives that the Canelo haters are pushing because they're so miserable. They are miserable people. And they keep Canelo in the news cycle because they can't live without talking about Canelo. He's rent free in their heads. Every night, they're laying next to their significant other. Why do they still love Canelo? He lost to Bivol last year. Why can't they just give it up? Why can't they just believe our fake narratives? They can't not talk about the dude. They can't. You know what I see because I've been to multiple Canelo fights, more than a handful, and I go and I watch the fight. Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. And then I go on Twitter and I'm reading something that didn't. Hot Boxing Minute was talking about this on the roundtable. He's like, we had a blast at the Ryder fight. We thought he looked great or good. And then I go on Twitter an hour after the fight and I'm reading this. I'm like, what the hell is going on? What fight were they watching? What is this? Canelo fans show up to the fights, buy the pay-per-views. They're happy. And then they know that 4 to 6 months, they're going to get another one. So they're happy and they don't even think about it after. They enjoy their time. They go live their beautiful lives. And it's the Canelo haters who keep him in the news cycle because they are miserable. They're absolutely miserable. And I'm not talking about the detractors because there's some fair conversations to be had. I pointed this out yesterday. When it comes to Canelo, we can have the discussion, is he a top 3 to 5 Mexican fighter of all time? Is he top 100 pound for pound? Stuff like that. How special is he? Where does he land in the 21st century pound for pound list? All of this is fair discussion. It's all fair discussion. What is not fair discussion? What is objectively true at this point? And this is the frustrating part because you have the crayon eaters in the back of the class who can't read the chalkboard and can't read objective truths. They can't see 2 + 2 = 4. They're like, no, look, I think that's 5. I think 2 + 2 is 5. I think 2 + 2 is 7. No, dude, 2 + 2 is 4. You're holding up the class. You're holding up the class. We want to learn. We want to be educated. We want to have a good time. Stop holding up the class. And they're holding up the class because they can't read on the chalkboard that 2 + 2 = 4. They're objective truths. And one of the objective truths is the dude has never ducked anybody. You can accuse Canelo of things, but one thing you can't accuse the dude of is ducking people. What the hell is wrong with you? McFly, wake up. Wake the hell up. You lose all credibility when you do that, particularly when you accuse him of ducking somebody who he's never. You were the one who said it. He doesn't duck that style. He wants to fight that style. And he's ducking him at the expense of a dude he already lost to. The hell is wrong with y'all? Why y'all so slow? Why y'all so disingenuous? Why is this happening? How can you be this either disingenuous or dumb? It's one of the two. But you have to be a hell of a lot of one of them in order to end up there at that destination. One thing you can't accuse him of is ducking. One thing you can't accuse him of is not being a great fighter, because I hear that too. Oh, he's overrated. He's just good. Dude, really? 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 I'm hearing the same thing with Lomachenko. That's another one of the false narratives. They're doing it with Haney right now. Dude, Haney fought 10 days ago. Can he relax for 10 days without somebody accusing him of ducking? Who the hell is he ducking? How could he duck somebody? He just fought Lomachenko 10 days ago. What do you mean he's ducking? Who's he ducking? Meanwhile, Tank's sitting over there in house arrest in Baltimore, laid up, still not fighting anybody. And I guess he's not a duck. I don't know. I'm lost. I'm super confused. The dude fought 10 days ago. I mean, can he catch a break? Can he get a rest? I didn't even have him winning the fight. I had Lomachenko winning the fight. And I had Lomachenko winning the fight pretty clearly. I thought he outboxed Devin Haney. But Devin Haney has the belts. He fought Lomachenko. Give the dude a rest. Let him rest for 10 days. For the love of God. In another one, these dudes, man, Lomachenko is overrated. Lomachenko, he's not a Hall of Famer. He's just not a great fighter. You just like him because you're looking for your white boy Jesus Savior. Dude, really? Really? Can we just enjoy boxing for once? Can we enjoy people who actually give us fights for the love of God? ESPN did this thing where they were started to use this false narrative that, we didn't get this fight for 4 years. What fight for 4 years? Lomachenko versus Haney was not in demand in 2019, 2020. Stop the cap. This dude fought Teofimo Lopez in an empty ballroom in the middle of a pandemic. Can we show some respect? He lost the fight, but he fought the fight. He fought Haney. Y'all all told me he was going to get steamrolled by Haney. There's no way he's going to get in between the jab. 35 years old. 80% of the boxing public feels he wins the fight. And still you dudes are out here complaining. He's not a Hall of Famer. Your white boy savior, Jesus. He just, you just love him because, dude, shut the hell up. Can you not just enjoy great fighters fighting great fights? Please, please. Lomachenko just has privilege because he got a title fight in his second fight. Show me the line of fighters. Please, show me the line of fighters that were lined up to fight Orlando Salido type opposition in their second pro fight. I highlighted Susumi yesterday. I'm probably the only boxing channel that talked about Susumi fighting a 12-round fight in his third pro fight at 126 pounds. Respect to him. But you dudes are happy with fighters fighting 30 tomato cans 2 to 3 times per year for a decade. Perfectly happy. And it seems like you'd rather that than a dude fighting a title fight in his second fight. Show me the long line of privileged fighters in line to fight Orlando Salido in his second pro fight or someone equivalent to that. Show me the long line of fighters that are privileged enough to fight Gary Russell Jr., undefeated Gary Russell Jr. in their third pro fight, 6 months removed from a loss. Show me that long line. I'm waiting for it. Show me. Show me. Show me the line. Show it to me. You can't be Hall of Fame when you're 17-3 in the O era. McFly, wake up, McFly, wake up. Once again, can you not see the difference between a dude fighting 18 title fights and 20 fights and a dude who has 1 or 2 in 10 years? Can you not see the difference in competition? It goes back to what I said about pound for pound lists a couple weeks ago. As you see these new pound for pound lists pop up. And it's just tough to fathom that you have a guy who has fought 3 times in a 12-month period. One of those fights was against a guy who was number 1 in a weight class north of him. One of them was against a guy who we had a trilogy with, number 1 in a weight class south of him, moving up. And then one of them in the top 5 contender in his division by every major publication. But he's a Euro bum. And he fights 3 fights. He goes 2-1. And you see him ranked below a fighter or fighters, but a fighter in particular who went 0-0 in that same span. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, how is that possible? How is it possible that you value 0-0 more than 2-1 against tough competition? And that's where we're at. It's like we were talking about in the 700-day celebration of Jamal Charlo not fighting. His 700-day inactivity anniversary is, we used to joke about it, the greatest defense, not joke about it, but it's true. The greatest defense is knocking somebody out because you don't have to defend yourself after that. Now the greatest defense is not even fighting. Just don't fight. And you're going to be valued so highly because you're not getting hit. Not getting hit. You're sitting there, you're on the top 10 pound for pound, just don't fight. Just don't fight. Just hold your spot. Hold your belt. Just keep it. It's fine. Which way are we going to go? Are we going to value the fighters fighting the fights and coming out with some blemishes, which happened in every era of boxing? Are we going to value this new age fighter who just keeps that O at all costs and does it against not good competition? Of course, it is great to look great. I mean, it's easier to look great when your schedule is soft. It's easy to look great when you're facing pedestrian competition. It's easy to pass the eye test. It's easy. Put Lomachenko at the top. Have Lomachenko fight Tank's schedule. What do you think his record is? What do you think his record is? Now, put Tank or Haney or anybody for that matter on Lomachenko's resume, schedule. What do you come out with? You come out undefeated? You think? You think you come out undefeated? I don't know. It's just impossible to please some of these dudes. It's impossible. It's impossible. And it's one of two things. It's either they're being disingenuous. That's a lot of it. Part of it too is you have old school jaded boxing fans who just can't appreciate any new age fighter. Because I see that too. There's a disconnect. And we've talked about it. Like the new age boxing fan, they can't put anything into perspective. We talk about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was the only basketball player, I read this the other day, to win regular season MVP, regular season defensive player of the year, win a championship, and on top of that, be the finals MVP. The only person to ever do it. And guess what? He did it 4 times. 4. And, you know, I respect some of these new age boxing fans, basketball fans. They'll say something, but they say LeBron's better than Michael. And I ask them, how old are you? What year were you born? Because they can't put it in proper perspective because they didn't live through it. They didn't live through that era. They didn't see his dominance. They can't put it into proper perspective. So when you talk to new age boxing fans, they can't put in a proper perspective that the top 10 pound for pound in 1993, 30 years ago, fought a combined 37 times in a year. And last year, that number was 14. They can't put into proper perspective that these fighters were fighting fights. They were fighting them consistently. They were fighting top competition for the most part. Some of them took a while to make. They made them. They fought them. With very few exceptions. And they can't put in a proper perspective because they see highlights from 40, 50 years ago. That guy looks slow. That guy, they can't put in a proper perspective, particularly 60, 70 years ago. When I see old school fighters fight and say they look slow or diminished, and they can't put in a proper perspective that a lot of those guys that far back were fighting every other week, every other month, fighting with injuries, fighting tough fight after tough fight. They didn't have hyperbolic chambers. They didn't have strength and conditioning coach that were giving them certain supplements that they were paying heavy into 6 figures to keep their career going. Fighting once per year. Pulling out of fights when they get a hangnail. I tell the NBA fans this all the time, new age NBA fans, is you're load managing the hell out of all these players. I saw Tyler Hero last week. I saw with Zion down here in New Orleans. I go to the play-in game and he didn't play. I see him windmill dunking before the game. He didn't play because he didn't feel like Zion yet. Tyler Hero last week, Eastern Conference Finals, Game 6, Game 7. He's cleared to shoot, cleared to play, but he's not cleared for contact. What the hell is that? What do you mean he's not cleared for contact? It's a mentality. It's an attitude. Roberto Diaz said it. Anytime you do a mythical matchup, time you bring a mythical matchup to me, I always pick the fighter from the previous generation. They were just tougher. The new age boxing fan can't put that in perspective. They think that the new age fighter is better, stronger, more athletic. But the old school traditionalist loses me sometimes too. And I consider myself more of that, but they lose me sometimes too, because some of these guys just can't be happy with anything. They can't be happy with anything. Lomachenko looked great, but I think he's good. I think he's kind of overrated. It's the old era and he's 17-3. Can you dudes just enjoy anything? Can you please enjoy anything? But more so, our problem is, particularly in the YTBC, everything is race driven. Everything is, if you say anything complimentary about Lomachenko, you're going to be accused of wanting white baby Jesus champion, whatever the hell that means. It's like, dude, can you not see that dude is great? I mean, come on. Can you not see that dude is great? Are you really going to be that disingenuous? I saw these narratives building before the fight, Haney and Lomachenko. It's like, dude, a great fight is being made, undisputed, and you dudes are accusing both fighters of ducking in the past, which never happened. Never happened. I saw it on both sides. Malignaggi was pushing a lot of this to the Devin Haney side. He never wanted to fight Lomachenko. It wasn't there, dude. The fight was not in demand. What are you talking about? Haney offered Lomachenko 3-4. No, he didn't. Shut the hell up. The fight was not in demand. This fight of all fights happened at the right time. Undisputed, two top guys in the weight class. Haney grabs all the belts. Lomachenko is challenging him for the belts. And that brings me to this point. I am so sick of hearing that the challenger needs to take it from the champion. Can we stop that, please? Can we stop with the challenger needs to take it from the champion when it comes to scoring? No, he doesn't. That fight is fought before the fight happens. That fight has happened in negotiations. That fight happens in negotiations. It's, I want to get the referee I want. I want to get the judges that I want. I want to get the ring sides I want. I want to get the gloves I want. I want to leverage this A side into whatever I can possibly get to give me the advantages going in the fight. But once the fight starts, it's 0-0. Each round is a separate round. Make sure you're watching the fight with the sound off, by the way. Watch the fight with the sound off. Make sure you're watching the fight with the sound off. Watch the fight with the sound off. That's another one. That's when you know they're losing the argument. Watch the fight with the sound off. Watch the fight with the sound off. But the challenger doesn't have to take it from the champion. What are you talking about? The judges go in, clean slate, score each round with who you thought won the round. Period. It's not, I thought that was close. So, where was this when Kovalev fought Ward, by the way? And Kovalev was a champion. Did Ward have to take the fight from him? Score the fight. Just score the fight. Why are you trying to make this more complex than it needs to be? Score the fight. And by the way, the tie goes to the runner thing used to be in boxing, the guy pushing the fight, trying to make the fight, which is once again why this is confusing. Generally, close rounds go to the guy trying to make the fight. For some reason, last weekend, it didn't go that way. It went to efficiency and body punching. Because we've always relied heavily on body punching and efficiency. We've always given the close rounds to the guy trying to make the fight. Pick one and be consistent in it. Just pick one and be consistent. Whatever you pick, just be consistent in it. A lot of these dudes are all over the place. I mean, so just Just to circle around to everything, Clarissa Shields needs to stop bitching. You're happy. If you're healthy, you got 2 arms, 2 legs. I preach this to my kids, and my kids are young. You lose your hands, you better learn how to use your feet as hands. I don't want to hear any bitching. You know, that's a bit extreme, but it's life, man. Like, you're healthy, you've got nothing to complain about. Clarissa Shields needs to stop bitching about every little thing. You didn't call me the GOAT. You walked up to me and called me the GOAT. I was at this show and you didn't put me on the big screen. Shut the hell up. Knock somebody out. For the love of God, knock somebody out. We're tired of seeing UD. 50 to 1 favorite, UD. 60 to 1 favorite, UD. 20 to 1 favorite, UD. Knock somebody out. It's what we value about Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford, huge favorite in fights, knocks people out. He could coast to victory just like you. He knocks people out. Instead of coasting to a victory and this 40 to 1 favorite this weekend in your hometown, knock the girl out. Give us some knockouts. Give us something to pay attention to. Give us something to be excited about. But for the love of God, please stop bitching. I'm tired of it. I'm telling you, like, I have that perspective. I see sick kids every day. I see their terminally ill kids every day and their parents just walking around like zombies. And then I'll scroll on Twitter and I see this nonsense that I see on there. It's such a turnoff. Stop bitching. You're healthy, go get it. Stop bitching. That victim mentality needs to stop everywhere. It needs to stop everywhere. O'Hara Davies, by the way, he's not going to let that go. He's going to fight his title fight. He's demanding he gets the fight. And I love how he's carrying that, by the way. Love how he's carrying that. Go get your title. Don't take step aside money. Make Raleigh, short bus Raleigh, special ed Raleigh fight that fight. And that would be one of the worst title fights of all time. But if you're O'Hara Davies, go get your title because that's a winnable fight for you. And then you demand, you have a title that's meaningful at that point, because at that point you are the weakest champ in a division with names. Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis can move up. And do not doubt me on this. I said this yesterday. It irks Tank and his team. Believe me, I know personally, because Leonard Ellerby comes at me all the time. I know personally it bothers him that we consider Tank Davis a Pinocchio champion. He's a Pinocchio champion. He's not a real boy. He's not a real boy. He's not a real champion. Tank Davis is a Pinocchio champion, not a real one. He's a Reggie. He's a Reggie, and that bothers them. It bothers them badly. They hate it. They hate when you say it. They hate when you point it out. So if O'Hara Davies gets a hold of a title, you could possibly get a fight with Tank Davis because they want the easiest road to a real title. Tank wants to be a real boy. He wants a real title. D-Style Boxing. Once again, my comments aren't loading on the laptop. Hit the like and check out Roundtable tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, and check out HCPX interview with Jenny Fuchs after this live. You make sure y'all are doing that in the Roundtable tonight, and y'all are hearing my dog bark in the background. The Roundtable is tonight, 6 p.m. on D-Style Boxing channel. Once again, I can't pull it up in the comments because my comments are not loading. StreamYard is tripping right now, and I can only read comments on my phone. So let's mess things up. But also, beware of the false flags. Beware of the clickbait. Beware of Benavidez sent this offer. Benavidez sent that offer. Look, man, I'll just bring it up once again. When I see this right here, prepared to. Is he prepared to send out Canelo the offer? Or did he send Canelo the offer? Because I'm being told two different things. Once again, I will lean heavily on track record. I will lean heavily on instincts guided by intelligence. I will lean heavily on that. I know which one is behaving properly behind the scenes because I've seen the track record of it. I've seen the track record of it. I've seen one guy deliver fight after fight after fight after fight. I've seen the other side deliver one fight that does less than 100,000 pay-per-view buys, and they marinated it for a half a decade. That's the battle we have going here. So I'll lean heavily on one side. I trust one side is behaving in good faith and one side not so much. If that's all I have to go off of, because you don't see what's going on behind the scenes. I know I don't. So I'll just lean on track record. I'll lean on instincts. And that's what we got. And Jason emailed me yesterday to hcpboxingtribe@gmail.com and asked me, do you think Ryan Garcia will stay with Golden Boy long term? And I guess long term means the next couple of years. The issue that Ryan Garcia has is he's locked in for another 2.5 years. And he's locked into the zone for 2.5 years. So this is the advice that I give if I put my Fanager hat on. And when I'm schooling Fanagers out here as to the advice you're giving certain fighters, you need to stop suggesting that these fighters sign long-term contracts, because it's not good for anybody. Yes, they're getting their guaranteed money over a long term, but it's the reason NBA players have gone away from that. And this should be the same thing in boxing. And it's the reason Devin Haney's winning right now. So you sign short-term deal, come right back to the table. Sign short-term deal, come right back to the table. Regis Prograis, 3-fight deal, come right back to the table. Canelo Alvarez, fight per fight, maybe 2-fight deal, right back to the table. It's what the intelligent fighters are doing. They're betting on themselves. They're fighting the fights. And that's why they're winning. That's why they're getting paid. You need to stop advising these fighters as Fanagers to sign long-term deals, because Ryan Garcia is now in a situation to where if he doesn't like what's going on with Golden Boy, he's locked in for 2.5 years. So does he sit on the shelf? Does he go to the courtroom? What does he do? He's forced to work with people that apparently he hates. I don't know. Apparently he hates them. But now he's forced to work with them because long-term contracts, high minimums per fight, and then fighters end up on the shelf. So to me, he's locked in. To me, Golden Boy's done a good job with his career so far. So I don't know what the hang-up is. I thought Golden Boy did a good job with Canelo, moving him up the ranks and moving him through his career. But ultimately, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But he's locked in. From what I hear, he's locked in to the end of 2026. So it is what it is with that. On that note, man, I'm going to wrap this up. Make sure y'all are signing up to the mailing list, hcpboxingtribe@gmail.com. And apologize for StreamYard acting up today, not loading the comments, because I have not gotten a comment since 12:45, which is 50 minutes ago. So apologize for that, not being able to put the comments up. I'm going to read through all of them as I play back the show. And I can only get them on my phone. I can't just keep looking down at the phone. So it is what it is. Appreciate y'all rolling through, man. And beware of the clickbait. You're going to see a lot of it this week. Beware of the clickbait. Don't click. Don't buy the false flags. Don't buy the false narratives. You know, Benavidez is called the red flag. Maybe it should be called the false flag. Who knows? I'm out. Peace. God bless.